Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Tromp again, the little Gremlin destroyer with the new Dutch commander. It becomes even more disgusting, I gotta say. Given that these airstrikes have so many bombs, you can activate Conrad, the new Dutch special commander's skills incredibly quickly. It's absolutely hilarious. This ship has so many bombs per strike. It's up to 72 bombs, which is the same as Guden, but it's in a way smaller drop pattern. The box is more accurate, allowing you to rack up, well, an insane number of bomb hits. So you're basically always going to activate the 3 extra charges, or the extra charge, to get you up to a maximum of 3. So we can play Tromp here on a flank where we're definitely going to lose this flank. It's ideal for this ship, where we're going to just airstrike and torp these guys to death. I feel a little bit bad doing this, to be honest with you, because it's just so disgusting. There's almost no gameplay in it for the enemy team, but it's funny, let's be honest. Over 7,000 damage there, getting another fire. You're going to notice I'm really not going to shoot my main guns much in this game at all, which may be a mistake. It may be suboptimal, but it's hilarious. And on a flank like this, with so many cruisers, gunboat DDs, I think it's understandable why I'm not actually shooting my guns, at least at the start here. These special skills, though, the Witherer one in particular, is going to be your reload buff on the new special commander. Unfortunately, at this point, you can't get them. I should have maybe emphasized that a little more in my videos. I've been seeing some people a little confused as to how they can complete the collection at this point, and unfortunately was only available during 14.1. It was listed, I think I brought it up, but maybe I didn't say that strongly enough. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully Wargaming brings back that collection rather soon, as he's a very fun and very powerful commander, let's be honest, as well as Lisboa for those Pan-American battleships. He's insane for that one too. I would prefer these things be consistently available to people always right at the start. Wargaming, if you're listening, these FOMO mechanics really do suck. I wish they weren't a thing. But if you have to do them, please just tell us at least when they'll be available later. Within 6 months, please. Something like that would be amazing. But back to the game here. We're already over 50k damage. That's activating another one of the special talents, giving us extra damage on our main guns, as well as these airstrikes. Very important, they don't impact torpedoes. So every 50,000 damage, you're getting about 2% better damage on your main guns and strikes. Not the Torps, unfortunately. These Torps are surprisingly good, though. They're very fast, and they have really low detection. So you actually only have a 6.8 second reaction time to them. They're only 3 per side, but they are rather surprising Torps. And I mean, given the speed, they're actually not too hard to lead. 12 kilometers. This was a buff that happened to Tromp a while ago now, but it made Tromp more consistent to play. Not that I necessarily thought this ship needed to be more consistent in its kind of gremlin tactics like we're playing right now, but the 12-kilometer range on the torpedoes matches the 12-kilometer range on the airstrike. Previously, I think the airstrike was 10 kilometers, so it was a little bit closer range. You had to get a lot closer to use these airstrikes. It was still fine because they're stealth airstrikes very clearly, but it allows you to get some permafires, or trying to go for permafires here on that Guden or Howden. However it's pronounced, I apologize. As always, not great with that. But Yamato, Preussen pushing in here, 2 gunboat DDs. Fortunately, our team has won the other flank, so we don't have to worry too much about winning this side. But you're going to notice we're also getting a lot of spotting damage here doing this. That's the key element of Tromp that maybe flies under the radar a bit, where without a smoke, without really farming from behind islands all that well, you're open water, torping, airstriking, some open water gunboating, you're just going to get a lot of spotting damage. You're a great asset to your team just by the spotting you're going to give alone. It's really, really powerful. Of course, airstrikes are already over 100 bomb hits. They do a lot less damage and they have a less pen though. So if you haven't seen Tromp before, these bombs do 3,700 alpha damage with a 21% fire chance. Compared to Guden, it's like 6,800. So, you know, it's close to half damage. And the fire chance on Guden is like 39% with a 37 mil pen. So we're going to shatter a lot on these battleships. But if you find yourself against like a GK or these German battleships, they have gigantic superstructures, and that means you're going to full pen superstructures on battleships, as well as into superstructures on cruisers and almost anywhere on most destroyers. So the key, though, is you want to be farming down those Preussens. They take so much damage. It's the tight drop pattern here that we're seeing with these airstrikes, as well as the consistency from 72 bombs in such a small area. To compare that to Utrecht, the new Dutch light cruiser line, for example, similarly small drop pattern, small box, you get consistency there. But you have way less bombs, right? You only get 35 bombs on Utrecht, even less on the lower ships in the line. So you're going to notice that a single plane being knocked out of the sky on the light cruiser line really impacts the consistency of these bombs, where Tromp has so many planes and so many bombs that you're going to get a lot of hits regardless, even if a couple planes get shot down. So many hits. It's absolutely ridiculous. Preussen looks like he's going to burn out. Kleber in our face. I think is that leg mod? I don't know. It's a lot of concealment. We get the Preussen. Our sneaky torpedoes get to the test ship, whatever that thing is. So we get ourselves that little double strike action in there. Yeah, it's a Gremlin, man. It's kind of the ultimate in annoyance that is this ship, I gotta say. Kleber, we should be shooting our guns here, let's be honest at this point. I don't know why I had AP. Maybe that's from a previous game. We should be shooting our guns, because Tromp actually has solid guns, right? You have 150s. Another Torp hit into the Yamato. We're getting so many kills here in quick succession here. Absolutely hilarious. But the main guns aren't too bad, right? You get 150 mil guns. They have all right DPM, but the key here is your shell velocity is really, really good. And even though they have really bad firing angles, you still can pump out a lot of damage from them. But it's these firing angles and the lack of healing, survivability. You get a lot of max HP, but it's a slow ship, takes a lot of damage. So that's why I'm not necessarily wanting to take these gunfights. At least early on in this battle, it was more down to how much support there was and how strong those enemy gunboats were. That test ship it's like a destroyer version of a SAP Colbert almost. It's kind of crazy. But we do manage to get the win here on this flank, and it's so funny, man. This ship is hilarious to play. If you're ever looking for a ship to just kind of relax and, well, let's be honest, annoy the enemy team. This is a good one to do it in, I gotta say, because you have such good detection here. It's like 5.9, very competitive with a lot of the hybrid and Torp boats. You're less comparable to those gunboats. You outspot them rather easily. You dictate a lot of those engagements, and you can always just set up on an island and drop strike after strike on people, even into cruisers. Poor Tulsa, things like Des Moines, these older cruisers, American heavy cruisers that like to get to islands, radar caps. I mean, you just drop airstrikes over them. Like, what are they gonna do? It's so sad. Oh man, so many plans in this game, so many ways to destroy people over islands. And I agree, we don't want people camping islands. That's kind of boring, right? But we got to take the logical next step. What happens if people can't go to islands and push up to those islands aggressively? Well, they're just going to camp spawn, right? They're going to camp at the back of the map, and that's how we get so many sniping games. At least that's why I think we have so many passive games these days, is island cover doesn't really matter anymore. In fact, it's a bit of bait because you die so quickly. Like this poor Tulsa player here. What can he do? I mean, he tried to play aggressive. I mean, we did some damage, but obviously a Jacksonville, Wisconsin, Seattle pushing him, these airstrikes. Poor guy. He tried to play aggressive. He tried to get up and play the game, and he died for it. So what do you think he does next game? Probably doesn't play that aggressive, right? I think that's a logical take on it. I think that's why we're seeing a little more passive games, at least to me. That's one of the reasons. Not all of them, but that is certainly one of the reasons. Iowa's still going to push. Conqueror's still going to push. 12-kilometer range airstrikes are very, very good here. Not sure it needed. I talked about this back when this buff happened to this ship. I don't think it needed 12-kilometer airstrikes, certainly. This ship was already good enough without it. But it has them now. And with this build here that I'm running, we're mostly focused on Torps and airstrikes. So being on flanks like this, yeah, nearly 11,000 alpha damage into that Iowa. Low pen, right? Low pen, low alpha damage. That's the weakness of the Tromp. But, you know, we have superstructures that we can be hitting. This, of course, being a bit of a dream scenario for Tromp, right? All these battleships pushing in. We're not having to deal with an enemy destroyer pushing us out, locking us out of these situations. But even so, with 12-kilometer range on these airstrikes and these Torps, we're really not locked out of a lot of these games. And I don't know what Wargaming can do to really balance this out. It doesn't feel all that balanced to me, all these planes. Maybe the goal is to just have more planes in the game. I don't know. Like, are we trying to make this World of Warplanes 2.0 or something? But the amount of planes that we have in this game, and, you know, I'm going to keep bringing it up until we get the actual opportunity to test it. But this new proposed carrier rework is not looking so good, in my opinion. What are we doing? Where's the surface ship combat, man? We're just incentivized to play back and spam airstrikes at one another? I don't know. I don't think that is a great direction for this game. This new special commander certainly not helping things. We get another proc of that 50,000 damage. Maybe that's the best part about this commander on these Dutch ships, is you're just getting almost guaranteed damage output every game. This commander is always going to be buffing you, assuming you get 50,000 damage in these ships, which isn't particularly difficult to do, I don't think. And a lot of the other special commanders, we're seeing very niche buffs, or very, very difficult buffs to activate. Another big hit there, a reasonable hit on the Conqueror there. It's a very powerful commander on some of the most frustrating ships to fight against, which is rather unfortunate in my opinion. How they could actually nerf these ships, I don't know, without completely destroying their Dutch identity, I guess. Their national flavor appears to be airstrikes. I think they've announced in a dev blog there's a battleship on the way, a Dutch battleship that's going to have 15-kilometer airstrikes. I've been sort of joking around about a 20 max range, 20-kilometer airstrike battleship line or something like that. Sarcastically, of course, hoping that Wargaming would never do such a thing. But they're looking to test some of this stuff. I don't know. Moskva again playing an island, a very common island, right? It's smart, all right? You get to cut off angles from the enemy team. The Wisconsin doesn't have an angle to shoot you. You can focus on one target at a time. You get close to the cap to radar it. These are all very standard gameplay scenarios for these radar cruisers that we've learned over nearly a decade of playing this game. And it seems like that's just obsolete these days if you get the wrong matchmaker. Obviously carriers, but so many airstrikes now as well. We're gonna get around him here and kind of farming that stern a little bit flat there, but as soon as we get his broadside, the AP can actually citadel some cruisers, certainly at closer ranges, but even out to longer ranges, we actually have reasonable pen on this AP. At 10 kilometers, you have 114 mil pen on your AP, which is actually more than Utrecht has on its AP. So if you see light cruisers, man, just swap to that AP. It's actually pretty good. Some more torpedoes going in. I think they hit the Howden or the Guden in this case. Ohio pushing in. Montana pushing in. And we're just a little Gremlin on the flank, bro. It's an interesting ship to play. It's a ship that I think a lot of people would be interested in getting. Obviously, it's a very unique playstyle for a destroyer. We haven't seen a Dutch destroyer line. I hope they go... Well, I mean, the Groningen is also a very difficult ship to face off against, of course, with how much DPM it has. So I don't know, but certainly I hope they don't go for a whole line of Tromps if they decide to go for a Dutch destroyer line. That would be rather scary. Here, farming a little bit on the Montana. I probably should have used my main guns more, certainly. I tend to play this ship mostly focused on the strikes and the airstrikes and the torpedoes. I think it's funny that way. Maybe not optimal, but I do think it's rather funny to purely focus on those two elements of the ship. And you'll see that in the build as well. Not really focused on the main guns, even though the main guns are quite solid. I just think farming open water is rather difficult in this ship, especially if people are inclined to shoot destroyers because of these poor turret angles. I keep mentioning it. I should actually tell you what the angles are. It's 31 degrees forward, which isn't bad, but kiting is the real problem. The 42 degrees angle backwards. That's a real pain point. And no extra armor, no ability to have a heal or no improved saturation like we see on some of the French gunboats. So you really are looking for opportunities like this where you can farm from behind islands or from relative safety. Perhaps I should be more aggressive though, now that I'm kind of watching some of these back. I'm full health in a lot of these where I could be trying to play aggressive with the main guns and then using some adrenaline rush to get these strikes back even quicker. Des Moines on an island again, and well-known Des Moines for having good AA cruisers, by the way. Poor guy, man. Poor guy. It's such a painful ship to play these days, Des Moines. I never did make a video on it. Maybe I'll have to go back and play some of the original ships released. But they're hard to play, man. I played Des Moines back in December, I think. I was thinking about making a video, and then other things came up. But Des Moines is so hard to play these days. That poor guy. But what are you going to do, man? These airstrikes, right? Airstrikes, all the spotting. I don't know. How do you play those ships these days? It's really, really difficult. Well, let's get back to the Tromp for a second. It's not up to us playing Tromp to think about the balance, right? We're just here to have a good time. And maybe that's the thought that we should take, right? Play ships that are fun, and don't play the ships that are obsolete these days, which unfortunately does mean you got to play pretty heavy into the gimmicks here in 2025. Not an optimal build by any means here on the Tromp, but it's funny. I'm going full Torp and full airstrike mod. You just stay dark, spin to win, spam your torpedoes, which have a pretty quick reload. That's 53 seconds without any AR on 15,000 alpha damage. A little higher alpha damage than we see on some other rather quick torps, like Holland, for example. It's a different line, right? Different tech tree or whatever. But 78 knot torps, that's really quick. And they're pretty fun to use, I gotta say. And then, of course, the airstrikes have a pretty fast reload, and it's very easy to activate a lot of Conrad's abilities here. Didn't happen to get Witherer in my time playing with Tromp, but still had a great time. This ship a day thing is just, it's crazy how guaranteed this is. It's a lot like Kuznetsov and how you're basically guaranteed a heal and a repair when you're on low HP. Like, you just always, the commander is just always going to help you in those games. And this one also is like that. And then, yeah, 50 bomb hits, not very challenging in a ship like Tromp. So getting up to 3 charges is really nice in a ship like this, where on other ships I said it wasn't as good potentially, or wasn't quite as powerful. But I think it's because Tromp has lower range, it's a DD, so it's oftentimes traversing the map, as well as having just a really fast reload base already. So you can make good use of it. You get it sooner in the battle, and you can make better use of it. It's really, really powerful here. Of course, Tromp being a premium means, well, you could have Conrad over on your Guden or your Utrecht once you get it. I'm still on Kuhorn here, kind of grinding it through, and then you can swap it over to PVO if you have that. Like, or Vaya, it's a very, very good commander to get. Again, I'm sorry. I should have said more about not being able to get him now that this update has passed 14.1. But that was the build that I was using on this ship. You do have a really good engine boost as well, 25%. And yeah, just to critique my own games here, I should have been shooting my guns more, especially when I had an engine boost available. That gives you enough speed and maneuverability. You should be able to dodge a lot of incoming fire, and I should have made more use of these guns, but it's pretty funny to play it as just the full stealth Gremlin, spin Torps, and airstrike build. Maybe not the most fun to play against. But we'll ignore that for now, right? Who cares what ships are to play against? We care about playing them. That's a joke, by the way. That's a joke. But it does feel like a lot of ships released these days don't really take into account what it's like to fight against them. And I think that's a bit of an issue these days. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.